Toby, but good to see we're both wearing our smart tees. We're flying the flag. I'm even drinking the stuff. Tell me, how are the regional markets performing? Are there any particular kind of hot spots or anything that's unexpected from your contacts?
Well, the general sort of consensus, having sort of spoken to a few of our regional execs, is there is still sort of momentum there. You know, the overall sort of move of the market is things are still happening. Yeah. Things are still moving forward. Obviously, we've got spring budget next week. Interest rates have just been held. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. We've got the stamp duty changing at the end of this month as well. But overall, we are seeing people still wanting to transact and still wanting to move.
I'm picking up that there's a lot of activity, but I didn't know whether the activity was producing deals yet.
It is, and actually one of the questions I was sort of keen to ask is, are these executives sort of seeing whether they're, or feeling that whether there's going to be a tail off after the stamp duty? And a majority of them are saying actually there's still a desire to move. They're so close now to that stamp duty sort of changing, then actually they feel the people are involved, they're invested, so they're still going forward with it. Yeah.
I read a stat a week or so ago that the greatest growth had been in the northeast, 5.2%, which was twice the growth that had been in London.
Yeah, well, I was speaking again to a contact up there, and he was saying that his viewings have just from January, he was hitting about 900 viewings with all his branches. Sorry, 1,500 viewings, but this month already he's done 900, so he's expecting to do a lot more viewings.
So all that viewing activity will produce deals?
Yes, you know, not everyone's going to buy, but the fact that there's so many viewings going on is very encouraging. People are still getting out there and looking at things.
What about stock levels?
Decent as well, yeah. Again, across the board, the stock levels are very good. So much so that this is sort of, it's giving buyers plenty of choice. Good. So, which is slowing down things a little bit because they're wanting to make sure they make the right decision. Yeah. Transactions are taking a little bit longer. So there's good stock. But it has to be priced correctly, as we well know.
You're making it sound like we might actually have a normal market this year. Do you think? Heaven forbid.
Well, when you look back in the last sort of few years, do you think maybe this is a year for a normal market? Let's hope so. It certainly seems like, even with all the sort of chat about rates and things like that, it does seem like actually on the ground, we're seeing some good business. The people are out viewing. I think with the interest rates, people have or gradually getting used to that and baking that into their decisions and their financial sort of options. And so I think that is starting to sort of go a little bit more towards the background and people are getting on with the move.
You're not a mortgage broker or an economist, but what are you seeing, what are you feeling about mortgage rates?
I can't see them. I think there probably will be a drop, maybe two, later this year. I can't see it being drastic, and I think probably the spring market, people will have considered that and will be getting going. I'm expecting spring to be fairly busy and quite a decent time of the year.
I guess I also wonder whether they might wait.
Well, interesting point, because I felt that earlier on in the year. I felt it almost hamstrung us when they dropped the rates because people thought, oh, great, here are the floodgates, let's see what happens. But I think with the wider economy and the global view, I think it's going to be hard push that they come, certainly sort of bigger drops and certainly more often.
I mean, at the end of the day, people move when life dictates it. If you change jobs or get married or have a baby or
yes, absolutely,
divorce or die, or those are the times that people actually they're going to have to move.
Yeah, there's a real motivation, isn't there? There's a desire to move, and I think that's what we're seeing off the back of, as I mentioned a moment ago, people are getting a bit more used to the rates, and actually probably a bit of frustration, saying, well, we've been holding off for this, that, or the other. But if your child has all of a sudden come around, or your job has now changed, that pressure to move is probably more apparent. Yeah.
Toby, if it's okay with you, we always like to try and address comments that our audience have made to some of our previous housing market updates. Can I pose a couple of them?
Certainly.
Somebody said, for me, looking to downsize and move out of my current area makes this process much harder. Eco-housing would cost at least 25% of the value of the property to retrofit it. How will this be possible to do with people on a fixed pension? Pretty tough situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing that we need more detail on from the government, from their sort of point of view of what they want to do with potential grants and sort of driving the eco side of it forward. Because it can be expensive and not everyone has got that available cash to put into the property. Downsizing as well, it's a big decision. We touched on a second ago about these sort of pinch points in life where you're sort of making a decision, a definitive moment. And downsizing is a big one. And so to sort of add that with the stamp duty and then the potential costs costs of investing in that. We need more clarity on ideas and more options. Certainly support from the government and the wider industry as well.
Last year, you told us that if you knew a sale or letting agent was a qualified member of a professional body maintaining high industry standards, you would choose them over an agent who was not. Well, agents who are members of Propertymark are not only regulated, but qualified too. There are currently over 18,000 members right across the UK, all adhering to a strict code of conduct and membership rules. And that is why we at Move IQ endorse what they do. To find your local agent, look for Propertymark and let them know I sent you.
Another one which was a bit worrying to me. Somebody wrote in saying nothing above £500,000 is selling. Developers have reduced their prices several times. Their stock's still for sale. Why? Because even if people wanted to buy them, they can't sell their own properties. The market has more than stalled. It's pretty much stopped. He goes on to say below 500,000 things are moving, but above that, absolutely nothing.
Yeah, each sort of area and market will have micro markets and different nuances. I think with the stamp duty change, we have seen a bit of a sort of impetus and increase in activity, trying to get in before that change. In terms of sort of new builds, what you tend to see is that developers sort of spread the sort of launch of properties over time. It also depends on the size and sort of the developer as well. There's certainly more positive sentiment from that side of the industry with what government are looking to do. But that will take time to feed in. You know, all these changes, these potential improvements in planning and building, that will take time to come in. But we are certainly seeing in sort of more affordable pockets, a bit more activity still happening. I haven't seen sort of tail off, but in terms of reductions, there are areas that have got to be price critical. You've got to get that price right. I spoke to a colleague yesterday, and he took a property off another agent, and it was way over the top. And he said it's been on since the beginning of last year. He gave her honest advice and justified it and qualified it. And lo and behold, she's now under offer.
Yeah. Everyone's cautious, everyone's price sensitive, as they should be.
Yeah.
Turning to first-time buyers, what do you see their biggest challenges are at the moment? There's always a lot of talk about first-time buyers, and we need first-time buyers and how important they are to the whole market, but I'm feeling particularly for first-time buyers at the moment.
I agree. You know, I've got two young kids, and you start thinking about them going to look to buy. You think, how are they going to do it? It's you know, with the prices going up and the cost of living at the moment, everything is so expensive. And so when your rent is so high, the biggest thing that you're going to struggle with is trying to put money aside for a deposit, being able to have that deposit. With the prices of property going up and the cost of everything else so expensive, getting enough is going to take longer and longer and longer. So getting that deposit is by far the hardest thing for them to do. And then when they've got that, you know, they might have to now consider sort of looking at different areas with the interest rates where they are at the moment.
Just thinking about the difficulties of saving for that deposit and the cost of rent, and that seems just to be on an ever increasing scale. How much of that do you feel is down to landlords exiting the market and then the lack of choice?
It's part of the problem. We don't have enough stock available in the rental market, so if there's a lack of stock, it's pushing up prices. But in recent years, for one reason or another, whether it's the cost of interest rates, whether it's sort of various sort of allowances that have been scrapped over the last few years, and I think potential legislative changes coming down the tracks, I think they've got a little bit nervous about it, and some are stepping back. We are still seeing people, and perhaps probably the slightly larger landlords staying around. It's perhaps those ones with one property, maybe two, or some that are redefining their portfolio.
It's also good to see some of the lenders being a bit more creative and innovative over some of the products because they want to lend money to first-time buyers.
Absolutely, yes. You know, they do take into account various things now with help from mum and dad, and so that's Bank of Mum and Dad is still a big part of it.
Isn't it about the 10th biggest lender or something like that? Really
it's a huge amount of money, and it makes a big difference to the market. But with Help to Buy and they're possibly going to hear some other things next week in the budget about, other sort of things that they might be doing. Who knows?
Watch this space. And your work is predominantly advising sellers. What should sellers be doing or thinking about now to take advantage of the market?
Well, I think now is a really good time because what we're seeing is that the evenings are lighter, we're getting closer to the spring. So it's a really good time to start preparing now. One of the biggest things I say to clients is get as much detail up front as possible. I've been traveling the country for the last sort of 12, 18 months, and my presentation has been about getting that information and trying to progress the sales process, the buying and selling process. It needs an overhaul, but what you can do immediately is have that information, whether it's paperwork on an extension or installation of a boiler or windows or anything to do with your ownership and what you've done in that time, and all the title deeds, that kind of thing. Get it all together, get it to your solicitor, make sure your solicitor's instructed right at the beginning. So they've got everything there. You're not waiting then for...
Would you do that actually before going to market?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you just don't know how quickly you're going to find a buyer. You might find a buyer straight away, in which case, great, you're ready to go.
We are picking up the sense that market efficiency and speed is there's a lot going on in that space at the moment. So I'm hopeful.
I'm very hopeful. So, like I say, I've been travelling around the country, and just in that short period of time, and I know people have been talking about this for a long time. There's been loads of people talking about it for a long time, but nothing's really changed massively. It seems like the only element of the industry has not changed is this process. And it's so antiquated. And I think we need to come together and collaborate, all the stakeholders, whether it's surveyors, solicitors, mortgage lenders and brokers, to do something about it. And I think with tech coming up as well, we're slowly...
we've been hearing about a number of projects that are actually, that's going to be really exciting, and they're very close. I've spoken to a few guys that actually have gone off and done it themselves and sort of setting up companies themselves with that in mind, just to sort of speed up the process. So I think in time it will be a lot more enjoyable. Toby, great to talk to you. Thanks for your advice.
Thanks very much.